All right. So what's going on with fish passage on the Blackstone? So I always start with the same thing as a reminder, no matter where we are in the watershed, we're on indigenous land, whether it's Massachusetts, Narragansett, Nipmuc, or Pokanoket, and we try and bring that cultural importance back into our work as well. So the first part, you guys kind of know this. We call it the Narragansett call it Mishkittikuk, the Nipmuc call it Kittikuk. They both mean Great Tidal River, and it hasn't been tidal in over 200 years, and that's something that we're trying to fix. You guys are pros at the Blackstone, but just to mention that, we have over 300 dams in the watershed, and they prohibit a lot of movement of both water and different species. So in particular, we're thinking about this lowest section and opening that back up to the tidal area to restore migratory fish. So we're an impact network. We are just two. We're hoping to bring on a third this fall. We'll hopefully learn more this summer and be able to share that with you. But we try and do a lot of different things, whether it's working on wild and scenic or sediment or dam removal or education or CSO or access. But one of our projects, of course, is one of our projects is bring back migratory species. So let's see if I can go backwards. Um, so we know that we're not going to get full continuity on the Blackstone River probably in a really long time. Certainly not within my lifetime, because we still have 19 dams on the river, and it's a lot to a lot to think about. But we are working to prioritize what some of those could potentially be removed or partially removed to allow fish through. And that's part of our work under our NIFWIF grant that we got, the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, that will be looking at hydrology on the river with Horsley Witten. We're going to be working on looking at all of the dams and creating a better inventory of what all the watershed dams are with Emily Vogler, who's in this picture here. And we'll be doing a lot of work on access and thinking about specific parcels to potentially restore or purchase, and how we can modify existing resources of access or create new access points. So we haven't had these healthy populations of whether herring, shad, or American eel. All are migratory species. Shad and herring are considered anadromous because they spawn in freshwater and then they go out back to the ocean to live their adult life. And eels are considered catadromous, which means that they spawn in the ocean and then come back and live in the rivers for their adult life. We know that they come back to the bottom of the dams every year. DEM, Rhode Island DEM, has done electroshock fishing at the bottom of Main Street Dam, for instance. And we still have these species coming back and trying to get up the river. So we know if we allow some way for them to get around these dams, they will still use that river as a resource. They will spawn and then go back and create healthy populations. So our goal, I know there are 19 on the river, but our goal is to get over these lowest 4 dams, and that's been identified as a priority for a long time. So why do we want to do this? It's the longest tributary to the Narragansett Bay, freshwater tributary to the Narragansett Bay. It's access to one of the largest freshwater wetlands in Rhode Island, Valley Falls Marsh or Lonsdale Marsh. And that marsh has been through a lot of restoration efforts. You can actually see, I should change this picture. There's a lot of water chestnut in this picture. It's not there right now. So there's been a lot of efforts to clean up those invasives and remove them. Restoring these species also provides a forage base for other fish, meaning other fish can eat these species. And so it supports larger, both commercial and recreational fishing opportunities. It's a connectivity not only for these migratory fish, but also for local species to be able to just get to different parts of the river and not separate these populations. And also, not only is it important for the ecology of the river, but it's also really important for the cultural connection and sense of place, whether that's for Indigenous members or just people in the community. Oops. Switching back and forth between moving Zoom and clicking on this is way harder than I thought. So as I mentioned, this has been prioritized and identified as a priority for a really long time, whether it's this 1997 report from the Army Corps of Engineers, saying, how do we restore the Blackstone River? Let's start with the lowest four dams. The Narragansett Bay Estuary Program had this in a 2002 fisheries restoration plan. In 2010, we got so far as to design this Daniil fishway. So one fishway over the Main Street Dam and one fishway over the Slater Dam. It actually went out to bid, but they had, I forget the amount of funding here now, but they had, I think, like $4 million or something, and the project came back. All the bids were over like 7 million. So they weren't able to construct it, which maybe isn't such a bad thing, because when they created these matrix of alternatives in 2019, they actually revised, instead of doing two Daniil fishways, to do one vertical slot fishway in river. So it's better to do one passage project, because then fish aren't having to go through like multiple sort of constructed areas, and they can just go in one. That would go to the bottom of Main Street, go inland, and just go all the way over back above Slater Mill. In 2021, of course, our founding document, the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program's Needs Assessment Report, it was again identified as a priority. And then between 2023 and 2025, we've been working with the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management and other partners to apply for NOAA funding opportunities to build this inland vertical slot fishway, which has been the priority alternative since 2019. So this is what it looks like. I know this is a little bit fuzzy, but basically fish would go in below Main Street Dam. They would go in this about 8-foot wide channel that has baffles in it. So fish can kind of like jump up one, rest, jump up another one, rest, and make their way all the way up. It'll have like a grate on top. You won't really see it so much if you're far away, but it'll be mostly level with the natural grade. And then it'll go all the way up here to above Slater Dam and let those fish out. And then this could work the opposite way for eel species who are going downriver. This is a really expensive project because we're working in a highly urbanized and limited space area. So it's about $19.5 million, which is a challenging price tag, as you might imagine. So the overview of what we're trying to get from this, you guys probably know this, but Main Street Dam, people always ask like, well, why are we starting here? Why didn't we ever have this before? Main Street Dam is a hydroelectric dam that's active, and in the 1980s, they basically convinced the government that, well, see, it's not just this dam here, there's this natural granite falls, and so fish wouldn't be able to get up that. We shouldn't have to provide fish passage, because even if we remove the dam, fish wouldn't be able to get up in most high level water scenarios. But what people didn't realize is that historically there was a braided channel that went around this part of the river, and fish were able to go up that channel and they would get into the river. We have very well documented stories and accounts of having lots of shad and herring and eel on the river. And in fact, there are some reports of being able to walk on the backs of herring, and the river ran silver because there were so many of these fish back in the 1800s. So we want to be able to construct. We're working on final design, permitting, construction is what we asked the funding for from NOAA, to go around both of these dams. And then once we got around both of those, Slater Mill's not going anywhere. It's the American Industrial Revolution. It's the first successful water-powered cotton spinning mill. It's a national park. It's not going to go anywhere. So we need to be able to go around both of those. Next is Elizabeth Webbing Dam. It's actually owned by DEM. They purchased it in 2010 specifically in order to provide fish passage around it. So they have plans and are working right now through funding with the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program to create a suite of alternatives again and decide which one to go forward. But they're looking at a nature-like fishway that would go through part of this dam. So it would be probably partial removal, but they're also looking at full removal and other options. Next is Valley Falls Dam. That's another hydroelectric dam. Once fish get here under their existing FERC permit, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, they would be required to provide fish passage and allow them to pass. Normally, Main Street would have required that too, but again, they got this exemption. And then next up is Pratt Dam. So it's already breached and passable. So really, if we are able to get funding for this part here, we're leveraging all of these other benefits. So direct benefit wise, we're going over two dams. We're going only 0.82 river miles. So if you think about like the NOAA applications of, if you give us money, we're going to remove this dam or we're going to go around it and we're going to get dozens of miles. We are not getting that in the Blackstone. It's a very different watershed, so it's a hard sell. But we're starting from nothing. We have no river herring. We have no shad, right? But if we can get this, we allow them access to this 13 acres of spawning habitat in Valley Falls and Lonsdale Marsh, and we bring back an annual population of 600 shad and 12,000 herring. Nothing to sneeze at. But we're also leveraging much, much more. So we're getting about 5 river miles if we go around all 5 of those dams, which is what would happen next. We're opening up 206 acres of spawning habitat, and we're getting an annual population of nearly 10,000 shad and 200 river herring just by getting this funding, going over those 2 dams, and kind of like knocking up the dominoes. So what is our role in this? As you guys know, we're a convener. We bring people together. We're trying to help justify this big price tag that people have been working on for decades. And what we heard is that the public really wanted transparent decisions. People said, why are you spending this money? What is happening here in a vacuum? I'm not involved. I don't know what's going on. And then decision makers were challenged because they said, well, in order to do a project like this, we need to show public support. We need to, have backing for it and show that people actually want this to happen. We're not making a decision in a vacuum. So we worked together and we decided, let's create this community advisory council. So we bring together all different partners, state agencies, some federal agencies, dam owners, tribes, municipalities, and nonprofits. And we meet monthly. We have these invitation only meetings because we want to keep it small and advisory, but we publish all of our notes and our recordings. We provide support on things like grant applications, organizing letters of support, thinking about timing of priorities. We met this month, just yesterday, and we went over, how do we create public access at this as we invest in this river and go over all these big investments. We also always want to highlight Indigenous voices and priorities, and we do a lot of event hosting, of course, like the fish parade, which is why I'm wearing this fish hat today. The fish parade is a Sunday, and run things like charrette sessions. We also work with our partners to identify these internship opportunities. So this is from Bryce Dubois from the University of New Haven. His student Marie has created this benefit on a fish passage. This is sort of the first step overview. We know most of these things so far, but the next step is she's diving into some of these case studies to look at how people have identified quantifying and qualifying some of these benefits. As you guys know, Fish Parade is this Sunday, 10:30 at Central Falls Landing. We still have some kayaks available. And of course, what we are titling all of these different grant applications is Restoring Fish Passage on the Great Tidal River, Bringing Our Relatives Home, because these fish are considered relatives to the Indigenous people. So too often they're left out of the conversation, but we really want to make sure that they do have leadership roles and can help make this project a reality. And in fact, we have 3 pending NOAA applications, 2 of which were submitted by Rhode Island DEM, and 1 of which was submitted by the Narragansett Indian Tribe. We're waiting on all of these so far. So we're waiting to hear back if we get that funding or not. Hopefully we will, and we'll jump right into that finalizing design and construction. So it was a little long, sorry, but I hope it provides an overview of what's happening right now with Fish Passage.